We're here with our friend Chip Roy. Chip Roy, how's your campaign going, my friend?
Mark, I hope you had a blessed Thanksgiving.
Yes, sir.
Campaign is going great. We got all over the state of Texas. Of course, now I'm back to my day job and trying to, get my colleagues to stand behind the president in all ways that we can and deliver. But look, the results are good down in Texas. Polling is showing me way up in the polls, and we're just, trying to run strong, and early voting starts in mid-February. So we're feeling good.
Now, you're running for Attorney General of Texas, and that's a big job, isn't it?
It is, and as you and I've talked about, it's difficult because I've got so many good friends, and I've really enjoyed what we've done here in Washington and changing the institution and delivering, alongside the president the big beautiful bill. And we're still working, but it's also a time to go back and make sure that we fight for Texas, because if we lose Texas, we lose America, and we're as you and I've talked about, we're under assault. Open borders, the Marxist Islamist attack on Texas. What they're doing with Epic City, what they're doing with Sharia law, what they're doing with mosques. And we've got to address it. And you got to have somebody smart enough to be able to deal with the complications of, First Amendment jurisprudence, but who's willing to stand up and call it out and stand up and call out the radical leftists that are putting criminals on our streets. And, God's given me the background and the experience to be a part of fights, but also to understand the law and to be a former prosecutor and to be there at the right time. So putting my name out there, and we feel good about it.
Chip Roy, I'm reading a lot of these news stories and hearing a lot of former federal prosecutors say that our military actions against Venezuela to try and keep their drugs out of our country are illegal. And I don't care if I'm the only one that says this. They're absolutely not illegal. Self-defense. There's a whole lot of arguments that can and should be made, as far as I'm concerned, about the right to keep these poisons out of our country. I mean, if they were putting toxins in the air, in our atmosphere of our country, that would be an act of war. If they were poisoning our water, that would be an act of war. And so now they're poisoning our people. They're using Russia and China and Mexico, Mexican cartels. But we know it's them. And we know it's not an individual or a cartel. We know it's a government that is trying to kill as many Americans as possible as it enriches itself. What's your take on this?
Well, I think this is actually a really important threshold question. And Mark, you're one of the smartest lawyers I know. I know you care deeply about the Constitution. You've written I don't know how many books about it. You and I both share a commitment with separation of powers, making sure that we're watching the law carefully. I don't think this is a close call, and I'm watching all of this hand-wringing over it. And look, and I say that as someone, you know me, if I thought that this was an overstep, I'd say so, because I actually have a duty to. So I'm looking at this and I'm going, okay, I'm trying to think of this. If this were a Democrat, if I just disagreed with them on other issues, do I think the President of the United States can act preemptively to go hit a boat that you've got narco-terrorists running fentanyl with good intelligence, that it will get into the United States and certainly kill Americans? And we know they're doing it. And by the way, that we've declared any number of these cartels as terrorist organizations, rightfully so, by the way. Do I think the President of the United States has the ability under his Article 2 powers to do that? Yes, I do. Now, have I explored every angle of every limit over years and what it all looks like? No, and I'll pay attention to it. But the president has a duty to defend us from those who are trying to kill us, especially when they're the organized cartels who have been at war with us for decades.
We're coming upon the 250th birthday of the United States, and it has me thinking, what will America look like 250 years from now? My friends at the Heritage Foundation want to know what you think. What policies should America prioritize? What principles should carry us into the decades ahead? As America enters a new golden age, Heritage recognizes that this is the time to take stock and to be intentional about how we shape the future of America. And they can't do it without your input. So please go to heritage.org/LEVIN and let them know what you think is important. Without patriots like you stepping up and speaking up for what you believe in, America as we know it can't survive for another 250 years. Please go to heritage.org heritage.org/Levin, heritage.org/Levin. Take the survey on America's future. This survey takes less than 10 minutes to complete, but it is critical for making sure that the America we pass on to future generations is an America we're proud of. Go to heritage.org/Levin today. That's heritage.org/Levin. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation. Let me underscore your point. During the Reagan administration and under the State Department back then, George Shultz, it was the position of President Reagan and Shultz and Weinberg and the others, that America has an absolute inherent right to defend itself against any illegal use of force. And that would include deadly drugs that are pouring into our countries from Venezuela, that's making a fortune, from the government of Venezuela. And these assumptions are supported in, if you look at the DOD Law of War Manual, the United States, I'm quoting, has long taken the position that the inherent right of self-defense potentially applies against any legal use of force, unquote. So this criticism of the administration's use of force against a government that is using cartels and other third parties to bring killer drugs into our country to kill hundreds of thousands of Americans, if that's not self-defense, both under the defense policy and under the broader policy of the United States that's been in existence for half a century, I don't know what the hell is.
Well, Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, but from my memory, and I haven't looked at it in a while, if you go back over the last decade, you have probably upwards of 500,000 Americans who have died from some variations of synthetic opioids driven primarily by fentanyl. Mm-hmm. If that is true, notwithstanding whatever fault lies with the individuals in America who might take some drugs they shouldn't or whatever, if you have 500,000 Americans that have been killed this way, how many were killed in World War II? If I from memory,
about 400,000, give or take.
400 and something thousand, right?
Yeah.
So more people have died in the last decade than died in World War II. Now I realize there's different time zones, time constraints, but that's what we're talking about. The President of the United States taking what I would call as lawful preemptive strikes against organized terrorist cartels that are doing this purposefully. And I think the President has Article 2 authority to do that.
Yeah, me too. Now, if Congress disagrees, Congress can cut off the funding. The War Powers Act, I don't even believe that's constitutional. That's never been tested. But that said, Congress can cut off the funding. If they don't have the votes to cut off the funding, they can impeach a president. They don't have votes to impeach a president. They happen to lose this constitutional battle. That's the way it goes. But I can go back to Noriega, in Panama. We sent our Marines in there. They shot their way in. 300 of the Panamanian military and civilians, maybe more, dead. 23 of our Marines killed for the purpose of capturing Noriega, who was another drug kingpin, who was pushing drugs into our country through Colombia. I know, I was there toward the end of the Reagan administration, then it was the early Bush administration. We captured him, we prosecuted him, and it was all about changing that regime in our hemisphere to protect our country. No declaration of war, and Congress wasn't informed until the effort was underway because they were afraid it would leak. So there is precedent for this sort of thing.
Well, and adding to that, I do think we have to be smart as Republicans to be clear to the American people the stakes. Because if we're not clear about the war that is being waged against us, whether it's the dangerous cartels, in this case already described, the deaths from fentanyl, but also just the chaos and the destruction of the Western Hemisphere, the dismantling of the rule of law, the pressure that then push on immigration into our country. If we're not honest about the organized effort of the Marxists and the radical leftists and Islamists that are trying to destroy Western civilization in our country, and if we're not willing to empower our executive and to stand behind our executive within some degree of reason, you and I both would apply equally to Republican or Democrat president, some limits if we see something being too aggressive. But President Trump is right. His instincts are right, and what he's doing and what Secretary Hegseth are doing is it is correct that we should be stopping these evil actors from killing our people and corrupting the Western Hemisphere and making us a weaker, less secure country. It is about time that we reclaim our position in the Western Hemisphere in a Trump doctrine for the 21st century.
Yeah, I mean, I just look at it as also the common sense of it. If you know somebody down the street is giving drugs to somebody else in the neighborhood for the purpose of spreading it in the high school, you can have as many people at that high school trying to prevent kids from using drugs and so forth and so on. But that guy who's behind it and so forth, you got to address that. And I can tell you that the founders of this country and the framers of the Constitution wouldn't be hesitant about this. Look at the Barbary Pirates and so forth. Another case where there wasn't a declaration of war. John Adams kept trying to pay them off. Jefferson comes in and says, that's enough of that. He sends what is our Navy over there, and they go to war, and they try to free what are these European slaves that have been enslaved by the Somalians, ironically, and others. And I just feel like sometimes some of these arguments are so stupid and absurd. There are black and white cases. But why is it that the left and some of our isolationists, don't get me wrong, why is it that their knee-jerk response is to attack Pete Hegseth, to attack the commander-in-chief, and they have no answers on what to do about all this drug stuff?
I think at the end of the day, it is comfort in being able to talk about it from the comfort of our homes in America. It's why, I know this is going to sound a little different, but stick with me for a minute. The Eastern Europeans, the Africans that have been subjected to tyranny, who are not allowed to carry out their faith, they understand freedom. They understand that you have to protect it constantly. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of people, Democrat or Republican, that have gotten too safe and comfortable in our environment in the United States that they're willing to accept tyranny, lawlessness, danger to their own people, and they don't realize that we have a free will. Like when my great-great-grandfather moved to Texas, he was a Texas Ranger right outside of Austin in the 1870s, battling Comanche Indians. Now, you didn't just sit back and go, man, well, I hope somebody comes and protects me. You had to just step up and protect yourself. We got cartels who are trying to profiteer on the death of our children. That's insane, and we should stop it. And we shouldn't allow the Western Hemisphere to be this complete chaotic environment. He's right to try to get Argentina. Secretary Besson is right to try to figure out how to get strength there and push China out. We need to reclaim our rightful position in the Western Hemisphere. It'll make our country materially safer and stronger, and it starts with dismantling the cartels.
Boy, I hope the Texans elect you. I think they will, because we need you there, not just for Texas, not Texas, obviously, but the whole country. The Islamist activity taking place in, of all places, Texas is unbelievable. The effort to try and impose Sharia law in various communities, to create Islamic-only communities. I want to have you back, Chip. I want to go through this with you as well, because in many ways, Texas is becoming ground zero. There are other states that are ground zero, too. Michigan, in some ways, New Jersey, and so forth, but definitely Texas. The eye is on Texas, to flip Texas, to change Texas, and I'd like to discuss that with you as well. If people want to help you, Chip Roy, get elected Attorney General, and I strongly endorse him, folks. He's a dear friend of mine. Where do they go?
Well, thanks, Mark. ChipRoy.com. You can find me on X/Twitter at ChipRoyTX, ChipRoyTX. And I appreciate your support and your friendship. Keep doing what you're doing. We need you out there. Great voice for freedom, obviously, and all that you've done to stand up in defense of the Constitution. And I'm deeply appreciative of your friendship. But importantly, for all the listeners out there, we have to understand that they're at war with us, and you can't win a war that you don't recognize exists. So
100%.
we got to suit up.
No, you're the best. All right, Chip, you be safe out there. Take care of yourself, brother.
God bless. Take care, Mark.
God bless you, too. He and I go way, way back. We don't always agree on everything, but we almost always do. That's the truth. And he's a great man, and I very much support him for, Attorney General of Texas. Is there any question about that? He would be absolutely fantastic. We need men and we need women with a character like Chip. We really do. A lot of these battles are at the state and local level.